Okay, so let me tell you a story about to illustrate my point here, which really is proper and honest and serious body language is much better for building trust and is much better for selling you something rather than hype, the fake happiness, the fake, hey, look at this stuff is amazing, and you have until next Wednesday to buy it, otherwise this offer vanishes forever. The over glorified, or not over glorified, but the overhyped stuff that you see pretty much everywhere on the internet, especially with respect to sales and so on. So, do you ever notice how when you're more skeptic in your way of selling, that you're building more trust because you're actually speaking the same language as your audience? Now, notice a couple of things here. I'm talking to those who sell to the skeptics, like myself. I mean, I sell to people like me, and I'm a skeptic. I'm a hard ass. I'm very, very hard to convince. Well, number one, because I made a couple of poor investment decisions in the past. Number two, I've been, let's say, not so smart with my money before either. And, you know, logically, I'm just, give me the facts. That's just how I am. You can't, you can use emotions. I've talked about this before. But those emotions will have to be rooted in facts and numbers and statistics, hard proof, demonstration. That's what I need. Anyway, getting back to the point here. So I want to tell you a little story about a trip that we all had, or that I had with a couple of friends of mine. I'm not going to go into the details about what that trip entailed because it's private. But let's just say that we spent a couple of days away out in the wilderness, away from civilization, and we were really pushing ourselves. Hardly any sleep, hardly any food, burning lots and lots of calories. Again, not going into details here, but basically we had kind of a hard time, tough time. So this guy, let's call him Greg. Not his real name, by the way. But Greg was part of the group. Every single instance that Greg had, he would tell a joke, he would lighten the mood up. Everyone would sort of like smile when they saw that it came. And it didn't matter so much whether the joke was on him or others, because he didn't mind making a fool out of himself at all the time. Especially when people were sort of like tired and wasted and didn't want to struggle to kind of like get moving. Greg would be there and he would lighten the mood up, really, and people would appreciate it. Even just the sight of Greg made people go like, huh, there's Greg. He's gonna tell us a little joke, right? And so it was a nice part of the trip, right? Because otherwise, I don't know if you've been around negative people a lot, but if you're around negative people and all they do is speak negatively about something, then they're bringing the mood down. It's really just awful, right? You know what I mean? Stay away from such people, because literally they're ruining the mood. Getting back to the point here. So as the trip concluded and sort of like the entire group was together, gathering one last time, sort of like to evaluate the whole thing, and right before splitting up, or actually right as we are splitting up and going each our separate ways, I'm seeing Greg. I'm just coincidentally running into Greg. By the way, it was a large group, so you didn't kind of like you couldn't notice where everyone were at the exact same time. So just as I'm about to leave, I see Greg, and his face is completely changed. His mood is completely changed also. He's dead serious. He actually looks upset. So I ask him, hey, Greg, how's it going? Everything good? And I sort of half know the answer because he doesn't look good. And he's like, no, I'm not good. This whole trip dragged on, and it lasted for much longer than I thought. And we're doing this, and we're doing that, and this was all a big misunderstanding, and this wasn't what I was told, and blah blah blah. I forget precisely what the rant was all about. But basically, he wasn't satisfied at all, and I could sense on him he wasn't satisfied. He was honest. He was dead honest. That was all like the real Greg that appeared from behind the character, behind the facade that he built for himself. And that's why he appeared way more trustworthy in the moment. Because let me just tell you something. Even though I appreciated the company of Greg when he would, tell a joke and so on, if he would have sold me anything, I wouldn't have touched it with a 10-foot pole. Why? Because I knew that wasn't the real Greg, really. It wasn't it was a different persona. It was him putting on a different character. That wasn't honest. That wasn't transparent. That wasn't him. I mean, I don't mind that he did that for the sake of keeping sort of like the good vibes going. I really don't. But I'd never in a million years buy from him at all. Simply because he didn't appear trustworthy at all. And so that's my point here. You see these kids online, and they're all hyping themselves up. You got these 19-year-olds who claim that they make, $45,000 a month. And they're still living in, their mom's basement or some such. I mean, if you're 19, you're legally an adult. You can legally move out. At the very least, you can get your own place instead of hanging around in your dirty bed and pretending that you want to teach me something which you're really not qualified to do because you appear disingenuous. If I talk to a 45-year-old man instead who says that he's just, crossed $1 million in annual revenue after years of hard work, that's way more believable. Way more believable than if somebody who's 19 tries to put on this mask, this facade of being this business savant, and all you know is, maybe he theoretically, if he continued doing the same thing that he did, could potentially cross $45,000 in revenue a month. But that would just be by extrapolating what he currently did. Right? Let's do a quick math lesson here. 45 divided by 30, what's that? That's 1.5, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's 1.5. So, if I'm making $1,500 a day in revenue, if I extrapolate that theoretically becomes $45,000 a month, right? So you can lie, because that's a lie. If you're making $1,500 every single day for 30 days straight, well, fine. You made $45,000 a month. But you're not making $45,000 a month if you make $1,500 a day, and then the next day you make $0. But then you made on average $750 per day, right? So how about we take the last 30 days and we see how much money you made before you start saying that, oh, I made $45,000. You understand what I'm getting at here, right? It's disingenuous. It's not trustworthy. And so that's the whole point. Greg was nice to be around, but he didn't appear so trustworthy, especially with respect to sales and so on. So instead, pay attention to those who are a little bit more serious, those who maybe are even more serious and even more negative and guarded in that case than you, because quite likely what they have to say and what they have to sell is worth purchasing. If you want to learn more about business and sales, I'm at persuasion and sales with respect to business, get subscribed to my email list. The link to do so is in the episode description wherever you're watching or listening to this, and I'll see you there.